Welcome to This Explainer. You know when you look at a product, a building, or even just a piece of clothing and it just works? It looks right, but you can't quite put your finger on why? Well, you're not alone. And that feeling, it's absolutely no accident. That is the invisible rules of design working behind the scenes.
To really get what we're talking about today, we have to realize that creativity isn't just some spontaneous, chaotic magic. The legendary designer Charles Eames hit the nail on the head when he called design a plan for arranging elements in such a way as to best accomplish a particular purpose. It's deliberate, it's functional. Designers are consciously using specific tools to make things look amazing while actually solving human needs. So, think of this explainer as us handing you a creator's toolkit. We've got 4 essential tools on the agenda: rhythm for guiding the eye, balance for finding visual weight, emphasis to make things pop, and contrast, the power of opposites. All right, let's jump straight into tool number 1, rhythm, which is all about guiding the eye.
Now, rhythm isn't just for music. In design, it's literally how we steer your gaze across a physical space or object. By repeating or alternating elements like shapes, lines, or colors with defined intervals, we create visual movement. It's how you make a static object feel like it's in motion.
Designers generally break this down into 3 types: regular, progressive, and flowing. Regular is exactly what it sounds like, an exact repeating interval, but progressive and flowing rhythms, that's where things get really fascinating in the real world.
Take a look at this classic monument to see progressive rhythm in action. Notice how the visual sequence of the arches and those smaller domes literally steps up? They're progressing, gradually changing to guide your eye straight up to that massive central dome. It's totally intentional, leading your vision exactly where the architect wanted it.
But then, compare that towering structure to this decorative carving. This is flowing rhythm. It's so much more organic, right? The visual movement here is continuous and sweeping. It just gently pulls your eye around and around those circular patterns without any sharp stops. Okay, moving right along to tool number 2, balance and finding visual weight. Let's see how we achieve visual equilibrium. Balance is all about making sure one side of an object doesn't feel visually heavier than the other. It's that harmonious relationship between the filled, positive spaces and the empty, negative spaces. When a design is balanced, everything just feels stable and equal. Here we can perfectly see the 2 main types side by side. On one hand, you've got symmetrical balance in those spectacles, a literal identical mirror image down the middle. On the other hand, look at the yin-yang style bowl. It's asymmetrical. There's no mirror image happening there, but the visual weight of the blue and purple sides is still completely equal. Getting a bit closer to symmetrical balance, it is super clear in this woven textile. It mirrors perfectly across its central axis. You've got identical red blocks and white patterns on either side, grounding the whole thing. It feels incredibly formal and stable.
But honestly, asymmetrical designs like this ring often grab our attention a bit more because they're a little more unexpected. Notice how the dominant form, that large, smooth white pearl, is counterbalanced by the smaller green stones trailing off to the side. They are totally different in size and shape, yet they perfectly balance each other out in visual weight. It's like a visual seesaw that levels out flawlessly.
All right, tool number 3, emphasis. This is your absolute secret weapon for commanding attention.
Emphasis is your focal point. It's the designer looking right at you and saying, "Hey, look here first." Unlike balance, which is always seeking equality, emphasis actively relies on the uneven distribution of visual weight. You make one area visually dominate the rest. Just look at this graphic design. It's a textbook example. Your eye is instantly ripped over to that large golden motif on the right. Why? Because the background is just a muted, repeating pattern, and that massive golden shape completely shatters it. It demands your attention.
And we see this exact same trick in everyday lifestyle products too. Take this handbag. That large, light-colored solid triangle right in the center, it aggressively pops against the darker, textured blue background. Your eyes literally cannot ignore it. That is the power of emphasis.
Which brings us to our final core principle, tool 4, contrast, or the power of opposites. Contrast basically forces our brains to wake up and notice differences. By arranging opposing elements right next to each other, designers tell our brains what's important. When things are dramatically different, we can't help but pay attention to them. And designers have a massive amount of flexibility here. There are 6 primary ways to pit elements against each other. size, texture, shape, color, value, and position. Let's actually look at how these work in practice.
Let's do a quick comparison. For size contrast, look at these identically shaped ladles. They're just totally different sizes. Pretty straightforward. For texture contrast, notice how it's the exact same circular dot shape, but the contrast comes entirely from how the solid opaque dots sit against that sheer woven fabric base.
Now for color and value. Color contrast is simple, like these identical giraffe toys. One bright blue, one vivid yellow. Value contrast is a little more subtle. Look at these mugs. Same exact shape, made of the same clay family, but they differ dramatically in their value, which just means the lightness and darkness of the material itself.
Lastly, we have shape and position. For shape contrast, notice the identically sized glass bowls, but one is clearly square and the other is round. For position contrast, we have identical triangles, but they are rotated and scattered at completely different angles. It creates this really chaotic, visually engaging energy.
So, by understanding these 4 principles, rhythm creating movement, balance finding weight, emphasis making things pop, and contrast leveraging opposites, you are now officially empowered. You've essentially been handed the glasses to see the matrix. You now know how everyday things are crafted to be both beautiful and functional.
Because design is literally everywhere. Your whole environment is now a giant gallery for these invisible rules. So I want to leave you with this. Now that you have the toolkit to observe your surroundings differently, which invisible rule will you spot first today? Will it be the flowing rhythm of a chair or the asymmetrical balance of your dinner plate? Keep your eyes open and enjoy the design all around you.